Hi, my name is Lincoln Geode, and I'm a cybersecurity consultant. At a high level, what that means is that I identify, protect, detect, respond to, and recover from cybersecurity incidents. Previous to this role, I was part of the Business Continuity Management Organization, which includes business continuity, disaster recovery, risk management, incident management, and crisis management. And this is part of my current organization and also many large and small organizations too throughout my career. Cybersecurity and business continuity are no longer separate and distinct considerations, as they need to work together to minimize costs, minimize risks, protect data, and execute a streamlined, timely, and effective response to any attack or data breach. When you take a holistic view of business continuity management, a cyber attack is just another possible scenario in the long list of incidents that entities should be prepared to effectively respond to and recover from. As a certified cyber resilience professional, we minimize the cyber impact to IT and OT networks by bridging the gap between cybersecurity and the business. How do we do that? As part of cybersecurity, we're going to work with the risk management group. And this is to minimize the amount of cyber risk to the organizations. We help create standards and policies for the organizations, and we also work with vendors before they get onboarded by looking at their cyber risk. Our incident response group, they own the incident run books that are playbooks with documented steps to follow during specific cyber attacks. During their process, they're going to do an investigation on the specific attack, on what was compromised, the type of data that was compromised, if there was any. And we'll work with crisis management, incident management, and business continuity, and other groups within the organization on what that means to them. So for example, if we have data that was compromised that was customer data, they would want to have something within their own run books to minimize the risks to the customers. They're going to have to do something for the customers to help them out so that they don't get compromised going forward. For the disaster recovery group, we work with them on ransomware attacks. We validate that they're able to recover from some type of a ransomware attack by validating that they don't have all their backups online and available for a ransomware attack. So one effective way that we've used to work with each one of these groups is to have periodic discussions within the groups. So it could be cybersecurity and just one of the areas within the business continuity management group, or as a whole, and then we can have large group discussions. Now, your company may be a little bit different, but ours is set up where each one of these are going to be its own individual group. So otherwise, in smaller organizations, it could be the same person that's working on, say, all 5 of these areas. So the reason why we do this is because cyber resilience translates to the ability for an entity to anticipate, withstand, recover from, and evolve to improve capabilities in the face of adverse cyber conditions on the supporting resources your company needs to function.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this DRI Resilience Excellence Summit. I am Rakesh Pande. I represent DRI International in India and the region. The topic, challenges in cyber resilience, is indeed very, very challenging because of the very fact the understanding of the term cyber resilience is different. How people understand that a standard meaning would be to have an ITDR capability. Just to have capability, is it sufficient? No. It may mean different to different organizations. Example, a more complex organization may want a better, a more detailed ITDR capability. Public services website, suppose an organization is providing public services. It can only do through a standard website. It could be HTTP or HTTPS, doesn't matter. When somebody writes www.xyz.com or .org, it goes to the website and that website provides a service. In case the website is down, can that organization have an alternate website in real-time basis or at a short notice? No. In the present day scenario, DNS changes update will take time. So you will be down for at least some times. Could be minimum 4 hours, maybe an hour. Is that good enough? Take more complex organizations such as stock exchanges. They require real-time backup and recovery capability because transactions are happening on a real-time basis, huge transactions having very high implications. Let us take an example of where online transaction processing of critical and sensitive systems require much higher data. As an example, many years back, I worked for a gaming company. As an example, I'm saying, you're playing cards. When you play cards, one move, second move, third move, 10th move, 11th move, you have to keep track of it, and you cannot have downtime. Or you cannot make a mistake in terms of the sequence of transactions. So resilience would mean different to different organizations. In this context, let us see what DRI International says about resilience. The bottom line is the ability to continuously deliver their products and services. To be very frank, these definitions is akin to having a PDCA model with a capability to deliver products and services. Because it talks about planning, implementation, check and act part. Similar is the definition in terms of cyber resilience, or resilience to be precise, when we refer to ISO standards. But the world is going to change. Trust me, we are going to change. Cyber resilience is going to become much more complex. I experienced it many years back when I was providing consultancy services to a big time player where DDoS attacks happened. The East European mafia blackmailed this company, was blackmailing this company, and the owner wanted a solution. Basically, he was looking for a resilient enterprise which could outsmart the DDoS attacks. We managed to do it. Towards the end of this presentation, I will tell you what is required to have that kind of a capability. But in the near future, what is coming up is this. When we talk about cyber resilience at national level, the entire outlook changes. Concept of drone swarms is going to be deployed in information warfare. It has a very big tactical advantage. The recent case of war between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Azerbaijan managed to beat the Armenian army because of this one simple coordinated drone attacks. Convert this concept in an information warfare and then try and look at why or what should be cyber resilience. To match this kind of attacks, an organization should have the capability to adapt itself on real-time basis. How does one have this capability? When you buy software, hardware from a vendor, can you adapt it on a real-time basis? May not be. My experience shows that an organization which is highly dependent, for example, which is at the national level, a nation has to rise, build up its capability to be resilient in all its spheres. Then cyber resilience will play a decent role. Otherwise, you will always blame either the IBMs or the Dells or the Ciscos for your follies. That's it. Thank you for sparing your time and listening to me. I wish you the very best.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Wade Richmond, and it is my pleasure to spend a few minutes with you today as we review some observations and trends associated with cyber risk and resilience. So let's get at this. To start, let's level the stage on a few concepts. In a perfect world, an entity's systems would run without any problems 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But we don't live in a perfect world and stuff happens. And when it does, our entity's ability to carry on in the face of adversity depends on the resilience of its systems, processes, and people. Being a cyber resilient organization means being able to fight through adversity and continue to operate even if it is only in a somewhat degraded mode. And let's face it, even if we do everything perfectly, and that's rarely going to be the case, we're still going to see perhaps 5, maybe 10% of attacks getting through. It's also important for this presentation to level set on a couple of definitions. Cybersecurity focuses on protecting an entity from a cyber attack. It involves such things as firewalls, VPNs, anti-malware software, cyber hygiene, like patching software, firmware, and training employees about secure behavior. Cyber resilience focuses on what happens when cybersecurity measures fail, as well as when systems are disrupted by things such as human error, power outages, weather, etc. It considers whether an entity's operations are resilient on technology, where critical data is stored, and how those areas can be affected by disruption. And it involves putting measures in place to minimize the impact of those disruptions. For instance, the protocols to be followed in the event of a system breach would be part of a resiliency plan. Now, DRI offers a certification level course called CRLE 2000 that covers the nuances and specifics of ensuring your organization is cyber resilient. But I'm not going to review that course or its content today. The remainder of my time with you today is going to focus on a few observations and trends associated with cyber risk and resilience. So continued changes in our threat landscape have led leaders to paying more attention to cyber resilience and led to the following observations. There's been a shift in the kinds of attacks that are taking place. Think explosion of ransomware. Sophistication of the attacks keep getting better and better, and it's hard to defend when attackers have an ever-growing portfolio of tools that they can unleash on us. And despite our best efforts, they, the attackers, only need to win once to cause a catastrophic outage or impact. And of course, the global pandemic has certainly had an impact on how entities view resiliency. Remote work has increased the attack surface dramatically, and many entities simply weren't equipped to handle that shift. And expectations that all of our efforts around recovery from an attack could be done hands-on has proven incorrect. With everyone working remotely, it's no longer possible to simply walk over and re-image a machine. Remote work and the challenges and changing threat landscape have fueled several trends around cyber resilience. Now, I want to talk about 4 that I think leaders should be tracking. 1, cyber resilience should be integrated into cloud strategy. Cloud has always been a great resource for response and recovery. It provides scale on demand, the equivalent of warm sites in different availability zones, and automatically can scale up in response to an event like a DDoS attack by deploying more instances from a clean image. But the cloud is now integrated into more than just response and recovery. No longer is it looked at as something different, but integrated into the security stack. So entities are no longer dependent on on-prem infrastructure alone. And using the cloud to offer a, quote, as a service security allows controls to be applied consistently, regardless of location. And the massive push to the cloud by entities is changing their resiliency profile as well. Whether the user is in the office or at home, the same security controls are in place because the service is accessible anywhere. Secondly, zero trust has become key to resiliency strategies. A goal of resiliency is to limit the damage of an attacker and what they can do once they invade a system. Zero trust can do that by better limiting access and privileges of users. Zero trust moves organizations away from implicitly trusting someone on their network to using context, identity, and data to dictate what permissions an identity has within an environment. Now, implementing zero trust is a positive step towards achieving cyber resiliency, since organizations can reduce open access to systems coming into an environment, unless, of course, they are authenticated. And zero trust provides the ability to verify all people and devices before trusting them. By isolating unauthenticated devices, it increases efficiency and resiliency because it confines threats to one part of the network. It reduces the opportunity for a threat to access the main network, and it reduces the risk of an attack. Number 3 is resiliency has been enhanced by managed detection and response. Detecting threats and responding to them before they get worse is an important part of any resiliency plan. Shortages in skilled security personnel, though, have made it more difficult to meet that goal. The continuing advancement of the technology involved in recent attacks has made the use of managed environments even more attractive. And that's because it's harder and harder for our teams to keep up to speed with what's happening in the world around us. Managed detection and response services effectively provide entities with an extra set of hands to manage the detection and response process by enabling us to partner with a company that has more investigative expertise, more analytical expertise. They can do proactive threat hunting, and it helps our teams focus on other aspects of security as well. And the 4th trend I want to mention is resiliency lands in security products. What I mean by that is the increased interest in entities in resilience hasn't been lost on vendors. They've added features such as the ability to manage remote working environments and on-premise security capabilities for remote environments. This has led to a reasonable amount of new capability, but more than anything else, it's also created a shift in how vendors are stressing that value. Many capabilities have been reframed in a resilient form. For example, recasting standard DNS tools to include intelligence about what's happening on a network contributes to resiliency by creating an early warning system. File integrity monitoring allows for inspection of unauthorized or unexpected changes in files, which could trigger administrative alerts to investigate the cause. And vendors have begun taking a cloud-first initiative to build resilience into their products as well. Doing so, of course, increases the ability to handle traffic and data across availability zones, and it leverages cloud auto-scaling to auto-rebuild from configured images should existing instances become unstable due to some attack. Now, you may be familiar with the Alliance Group. They're a global insurer and a producer of their annual Alliance Risk Barometer. And just 7 years ago, cyber attack and cyber risk ranked as low as 15th in their annual survey. Today, it ranks either near or at the top of seemingly every risk poll conducted. Because over these 7 years, knowledge of the threats posed to businesses by cyber has grown. Yet, the number of related claims or losses have increased significantly as well. Entities are facing significant challenges, such as the prospect of more disruptive and expensive business interruptions, the increase in the frequency and cost of ransomware incidents, the consequences from larger data breaches and more robust regulation, and the prospect of litigation if something does go wrong. Also increasing these risks are the playing out of political differences in cyberspace and unexpected risks from even successful M&A activity. Compounding all of this is the fact that many employees are now working remotely, creating new opportunities for increased, better organized and funded cyber criminals to exploit. Potential impacts from human error or technical failures have also been heightened through this experience. So this slide is actually the top 10 business risks forecasted for 2021 by the Alliance Risk Barometer. Note again that cyber incidents rank as number 3 on their list. However, business interruption and pandemic outbreak can be closely associated with those cyber incidents as well. And when we dive even deeper into the trends specifically associated with cyber risk, the Alliance Group identifies these top 10 trends. Claims in cyber growing. External attacks cause the most expensive losses. Business interruption is the main cost driver behind claims. Remote working and COVID-19 has heightened these exposures. Ransomware incidents are more frequent and financially damaging. Business compromise email attacks are on the surge. Costs of mega data breaches are increasing. Regulatory exposures are increasing around the globe. Class action litigation is on the rise. M&A certainly brings with it cyber risk. And of course, nation-state sponsored attacks are on the rise as well. We're going to focus down on some of these now. Lax security post-COVID-19 heightens cyber risk. With many companies having expanded their remote working capacities through the pandemic, often, to be honest, in very short notice, in order to provide as many employees as possible with easy access to software and systems, IT security standards may have had to be lowered or even suspended, putting cybersecurity under new levels of stress. Business interruption and digital supply chain vulnerabilities are growing. Digital disruption has become a much more significant driver of cyber losses, while cyber risk in supply chains is a growing exposure. Their analysis of cyber claims show that business interruption is the main cost driver in the majority of cases. Cyber and business interruption now rank at the top 2 risks for companies respectively, according to the Alliance Risk Barometer in 2020, which was conducted before the coronavirus outbreak, and are increasingly interrelated. And ransomware is now the most prominent cybercrime threat. Already in high frequency, incidents are becoming more damaging, increasingly targeting large companies with sophisticated attacks and hefty extortion demands. 5 years ago, a typical ransomware demand would have been in the tens of thousands of dollars. Now, they can be in the millions. The consequences of an attack can be crippling, especially for organizations that rely on data to provide products and services. But it can also create significant damage for others in the supply chain, such as critical infrastructure. Business email compromise attacks are surging. More people are working from home, meaning new opportunities for criminal activities are generated. Prior to the pandemic, BEC incidents had already resulted in worldwide losses of at least $26 billion since 2016, and that's according to the FBI. Between May of 2018 and July of 2019, the number of incidents discovered worldwide doubled, with an average economic loss of $270,000. Mega breaches come with increasing costs. Now, the costs of dealing with large data breach is certainly rising. Regulation is also a key factor in driving that cost, as is growing third-party liability and the prospect of class action litigation. Mega data breaches involving more than 1 million records are more frequent and expensive. In July of 2019, Capital One was hit by one of the largest ever breaches in the banking sector, with approximately 100 million customers in the US impacted. This resulted in being fined $80 million by the US bank regulators. Yet this breach, as large as it is by no means the largest in recent years. Increasing regulatory exposure at home and overseas. Data protection and privacy regulation is increasing in scope and geography. This is creating more stringent requirements on organizations that collect and use personal data, enhanced rights for consumers, and higher penalties for breaches. In the US, data breach notification requirements have long been an important driver of cyber losses and insurance purchasing. And in recent years, other countries have followed suit. Australia and Canada introduced data breach notification laws in 2018, and others have gone even further. Class action litigation is a developing situation. A number of large breaches have led to class action by consumers or investors. In July of 2019, Equifax reached a $700 million settlement for its 2017 mega data breach. US courts have been battling the question of legal standing, meaning whether claimants have the right to sue, but the trend certainly appears to be in favor of those plaintiffs. Statutory and regulatory changes could also facilitate compensation for data breaches. The California Consumer Privacy Act, for example, provides a mechanism for consumers to sue businesses and, in a first for the US, sets statutory damages for data breaches. Buying a company can bring along cyber risk. Cyber exposures need to be a hot topic in every M&A. For example, in 2018, the Marriott breach, which has resulted in international hotel groups facing a fine of almost $130 million from regulators, was actually traced to an intrusion in 2014 at Starwood, a hotel group that it acquired in 2016. Even the best protected companies can be exposed if they acquire a company with weak cybersecurity or existing vulnerabilities. Subsequently, the acquiring firm could be liable for any damage from incidents which predate the merger. And lastly, nation states increase our risk. The involvement of nation states in cyber attacks is an increasing risk for companies, no doubt. Major events like the elections and COVID-19 present significant opportunities for the bad guys. And during 2020, Google said it had blocked over 11,000 government-sponsored potential cyber attacks per quarter, ranging from phishing campaigns to less common DDoS attacks. Recent years have seen critical infrastructure, such as ports and terminals and oil and gas installations, hit by cyber attacks and ransomware campaigns. Most recently, you'll recall the attack on the water system in Florida. Sophisticated attack techniques and malware may also be filtering down to cyber criminals, while nation-state involvement is providing increased funding to those hackers. Even where companies are not directly targeted, state-backed cyber attacks can cause collateral damage, as seen with the NotPetya malware attack. Now, in wrapping up, here's my final thought. Be on the lookout for that KO punch. In boxing, fighters need to be able to take a punch and keep on fighting. In business, cyber resilience can allow us to do just that. Moreover, including cyber resilience in long-term strategic plans can create that necessary and continual strategic conversation between an entity's technology and strategic leaders. And because of that, a cyber resilient approach can not only bolster readiness within an entity, but can also reduce costs, make the business more efficient and effective. So that's what I had to share with you today, and I hope that you found it informative and helpful. Thank you for your time and attention. Now, stay safe and healthy.